This week's Piltch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. Really digging the new music. All right. So we've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks, possibly months, about AI. We're not doing it tonight. At least not in the same way we have been. Let's talk about some good news from the other side of the world.
Yes. AI is too depressing. There's too much bad stuff going on. So let's talk about some good stuff. Although there were some AI things announced at the show, I want to talk mainly about hardware at Computex, the world's coolest trade show. So Computex is back. Those of you who've been following our show for a while remember I used to go to Computex in Taipei every May. And for a couple of years there now, 2020, 2021, and pretty much 2022. I think they had a few people there last year, but we didn't go. It was canceled or dead. But this year, it's back in full force. Now, we could not send all the people that we normally send. So we sent two of my colleagues, Matt and Paul, and I didn't get to go this year, which is now I'm really, really sad because I love to go to Taiwan. And so if we're all still, if Google doesn't drive us out of business by then, I will be going to be wanting to go to Taiwan again next year, no matter what, because I really missed going to the city and going to Taipei and going to the show. Real
windows in your hotel room or not?
Yes, that's true. 1 year I didn't have a real window in my hotel. But if I get to pick the hotel, then I wouldn't pick a hotel like that. But 1 year somebody put me up in a hotel that had a fake window, but it took me half a week to figure it out. It was like a window, and there was like a potted plant and some like rocks there, and it seemed like there was a little bit of light coming into the window. So I thought maybe I'm looking out onto like some kind of courtyard that has like a potted plant on it. And it took me a little while to figure out that no, there is no courtyard. It's just a glass box with a potted plant in it and a background or whatever to make it look like this could be that you were looking out onto some like roof courtyard. So
in your defense, you did arrive at a weird time after a very long flight before you figured it out.
Well, I mean, the other thing is I couldn't imagine someone would do that.
Fair enough.
I didn't understand. I couldn't, like, if you're not going to give me a window, just don't give me a window, which is weird enough. But like, you're not giving me a window and then you're faking it? That's just so weird.
I have such very clear memories of the photos that you sent back.
Yeah, I have them somewhere. I don't remember what hotel that was. But I do remember that hotel had a problem with flies. Like we would go into the buffet or whatever, breakfast buffet, and there were a lot of flies. That was ideal. Crappy. If you go to Taiwan, don't stay there. Stay at the Brother Hotel, which is where I usually stay. It's like $110 a night, which is really good. And they have nice, very clean rooms with windows, not big rooms, but very clean and nice, centrally located, not walking distance from the convention center, but like a short cab ride or a short subway ride. And they've got it's like 7 restaurants in the hotel itself, plus tons of restaurants near it, and like really, really nice place with a great price. I go there every time. But anyway, unless of course you can stay at unless of course you've got lots of money, in which case stay at the Hyatt, which is the Grand Hyatt, which is right next to the convention center. I stayed there once, but that is usually like $300 or $400 a night. So if you can afford it though, I'll never stay in as good a hotel as when I stayed at the Hyatt. Oh, that was a thing of beauty. But anyway, let's not talk about the hotels that I didn't get to stay in. Let's talk about the hardware that our folks got to see, because all of us are going to get to see it in the coming months as it comes out. So let me show you some of the cool stuff that was there. This is our list of the best stuff of Computex, but there was a lot of cool stuff that isn't even on the best list. So there were some graphics cards, no like new chips, but some companies showed off graphics cards. MSI had a 4070 Ti that was extremely slim, which is nice. But perhaps even more interestingly, and did not make the best list because it was a concept, ASUS showed off a 4090 card that had no power connector plug. No power connector plug for a wire on the top. Instead, what it had was a connector on the bottom where it plugs into the motherboard, and then the motherboard had a special connector on it to give power to the card. Because a really big theme of this year's show that we saw from MSI, and Gigabyte has something, and ASUS has something, is having back-facing ports on motherboards. Are you familiar with that, Scott?
I don't know. When we talk about back-facing, what are we talking about?
Let me see. So one of our things on here, Project Zero. I don't know if this is not a good picture, but let me find you a good picture of Project Zero, which is MSI's take on this. ASUS has their own, which I think they call Ape or something like that. But
this is the trend of essentially eliminating visible wires, right?
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
if you look at
like Gigabyte's Project Stealth.
Yes, Gigabyte's Project Stealth, which we
Okay.
tested out a while back and didn't work very well for us, but the concept is very solid. So okay, so here this is a good example of what you would see. So here's a motherboard, and you see that the power connectors for the like ATX power connector and the CPU power connectors, and I think that with the SATA connectors here, I'm not sure. Some other connectors too, maybe the front panel connectors.
Yeah, that's what it looks like down there, and maybe the
Are
like the USB headers for the case.
USB headers, but I don't know. But this one doesn't seem to have a PCIe one for for your video card, unless this is it. Maybe this is it. Although this would be like your standard 2 8 pin ones. But the idea is this is facing out the back, right? So I don't know if there's a great picture of it here, but it's facing the right side of your case. So in most computer cases these days, there's this visible side here, right, which is where the window is. And then there's the other side, the right side, right? If you're looking front at the, looking at the case head on, that is usually just has a is not glass. It's like metal or whatever. So there's that whole kind of wall there, and you can do your cable management and run your wires behind that. And now people do run their wires behind there, but they still have to kind of poke them through a hole to get to this the motherboard. But so I guess here they didn't manage to do it with a graphics card, because you could still see a wire coming up to the graphics card, right? But anyway, yeah, so that's something that we're seeing from more companies. The case has to support it too. If you wanted the video card to support it, then you need a video card that that supported it, that had some kind of special adapter. But it feels like it's a new trend that we're going to see a lot more of. And there's a decent chance that this just becomes, it would require a lot of changes, and meanwhile a lot of people's cases wouldn't work anymore and whatever. So I don't know if this is going to catch on, because there's such an issue with backward compatibility. But I think this is something a lot of people would want, because they don't like having the cables visible. So And I get that it becomes messy. Bad
It's
enough you have the
actually
tubes with the coolant.
it's actually really insane to me that with all this effort put into making attractive looking PCs with Windows, that it's taken this long for the concept.
Yeah, I don't understand why this hasn't happened before. Like, why not? I mean, I guess I guess it is relatively recent that we have these kind of shrouds in the back where people are kind of expected to sort of route their wires under things like this PSU shroud and the shroud in the back and whatever. Um, my last PC build, I was really surprised how like the case I had, you just had all this effort into like making sure you hide your ugly wires. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I mean, obviously in the olden days, people didn't care what the inside of their case looked like. You didn't have a window, so who cared? But now with the emphasis on the inside of their case looking nice, um, this I can see that the value of it. Also, you know what? It's probably easier to install too, because if your the cord from your power supply is back here, right? Then you probably don't want to have to reach it all around all over and through your radiator coolant tubes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably easier to just plug it in the back.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to buy extensions
So
for power for this reason.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Power extension, right? Like that's another issue,
I
right?
would say,
I
which was a
mean,
problem
although
for
you can
you
have once.
personally recently.
Yes, yes. I of course I'm still using the power extensions. I just have plugged them out and in again a couple of times, and they seem to be working at the moment. But we will see because I'm probably going to be doing an upgrade, a major upgrade in a week or two. And so at that point, I'm probably not going to be using these extension cables anymore. I'm probably going to get a new PSU to because I'm going to be upgrading my graphics card to do more AI stuff. Because you need VRAM for some of these AI things. But let's talk about some other things. But that was a big trend. Here's another thing I thought was really cool, literally, figuratively, and literally. Cooler Master had some great stuff. This is called the Master Hub. It is sort of like a build your own Stream Deck type of thing, where there's various pieces, including like a macro keyboard that's not shown in this picture, and like dials and I don't know what you call these levers and screens that you kind of pop onto these pogo pins and um, make your own like controller for like controlling multimedia if you're a video or audio editor or doing macro stuff. um, I
Oh,
always like the Elgato Street.
or for my control over here, where I have a Stream Deck that controls the whole show.
Right, so right for things like that. So what do you think? How does this compare to what you have?
So I would want to mess around with it. I'd love to see how some of these things can be dialed into our system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can I control Live Stream Studio with the volume knobs and stuff like that? But,
Mm-hmm.
conceptually, it's really solid. I really like the idea of the screen, especially if I can tie it into Live Stream Studio to get like feedback on what's active, which the right now I can't do with the Stream Deck. So I mean, there's definitely some pretty cool possibilities here. And with editing, having a jog shuttle, I
Yeah,
have a jog
so
shuttle for editing, and it's great. But being able to integrate all this other stuff together with the jog shuttle would be super cool.
yeah, uh, there's one that has like keys, like LED keys, like you can see on a Stream Deck, and then there's the jog shuttle. There's these like three dials. There's this equalizer thing. There's two sizes of screen, and then there's these like other dial things. So so
Those
kind
look
of
like
interesting.
those look like rollers on like a Logitech
Yes,
keyboard.
yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Um, So this monitor, really nice QD OLED, 49-inch, 5K. with an 1800R curve from ASUS. Really, really nice colors that you can't tell from just looking at my screen, and me sharing it. Some other great stuff that they had. This is kind of unique for a PC cooler. Sort of looks like a flower almost, where the petals are fans.
That's cool.
I mean, it honestly seems like fan overkill, but I can never say overkill when it comes to computer. Um, this may not be the best picture of this. This is a Lian Li case, and it's glass on 3 sides. So like the front, the top, and the left side are all clear glass without even like a pillar here. So you can really get a really good look at the inside of your case. So
That's
better
nice.
have some pretty looking things in there, because you're going to be looking at it quite a bit.
Yeah, like Project Zero or whatever.
Yes, except the case has to support it,
Right,
right?
right.
So that's something to keep in mind, because the holes in the back of the motherboard tray or whatever have to line up. So that's not a standard yet, and so I don't think, um, you have to get a case specifically to support it, and that may be the downfall of this effort, because what you really need is whoever came up with the idea for ATX and micro ATX and mini ITX to standardize those back connectors. Here is a Cougar chair that has a fan in it, an RGB fan in it. So
Nice.
you ever wanted to cool off your back, the chair is there for that. Uh, this laptop is an okay Ultrabook, the Swift Edge 16, best notebook we saw introduced at the show. Has OLED screen, Ryzen 7. Nice thing for a decent price of $1,300. This was my favorite thing of the show, because I'm dying to get this. This is Lian Li Unifan TL-LCD. These are case fans with screens on them. I really
Oh,
I have a block of other Lian Li Unifans, and they're really fantastic. They look great with the RGB on this area. They snap together, so there's sort of less ugly wiring. Um, and this is sort of takes the same philosophy, and then just adds um, these screens, which can show either status information like temperature, or they could show an animation or whatever you want. So I love having screens in my computer, and this would be kind of a neat way to have it. It's not going to be that expensive. It's going to be $139 for 3 of them. Normally, it's $119 for 3 without this, so not bad. This is kind of another neat way of customizing your stuff. The Corsair Dominator Titanium. These new DDR5 RAM DIMMs have a removable top, and then you can either buy a custom top bar from Corsair to put over it, and the RGB lights, which I think there's like 11 RGB lights here, will shine through, or you can 3D print your own top bar and attach it.
it was absolutely my first thought. I'm like, I'm not buying it from anybody. I'm going to design my own. In fact, I'm thinking about now designing one for the RAM that's in the studio PC right now.
Yeah. So this has a specific thing to specifically snap on. Now, what they didn't say is what these were 3D printed out of. The ones that they showed, like, would it work with PLA, which is like the mainstream cheap stuff that we use? Do you need like ABS, PETG? What do you need? Because it's going to get a little warm where these are. So you want something that can withstand the heat. And has the look of, this looks really nice. Like a lot of stuff I've 3D printed doesn't look that nice. So this is a new SSD. There were some PCIe 5 SSDs shown. The actually fastest one was the MSI Spatium Pro 570, which operates at 14 gigabyte per second. But that's not making our best list because it was already shown at CES. Patriot has this, which is 12 gigabyte reads, but it's got a really uniquely thin active cooler with this fan, really, really paper thin. So a really nice use of active cooling. One thing about PCI 5 SSDs, you've got to keep them cool, or they are going to throttle. Speaking of cooling, back to Cooler Master, they had their new X Silent series of power supplies. The 750 watt unit here on the right has no fan at all. So there's no way it's going to make fan noise. And then the one on the left is 1300 watts and has a fan that they claim is so quiet you can't hear it. So makes absolutely no noise. Real focus on quiet from the PSU. Speaking of Gigabyte motherboards, many of you know that Gigabyte is Aorus. Aorus is a Gigabyte's fancy brand. They showed this awesome looking motherboard at the show. It's coming out this fall. It's going to be for it's a Z790 motherboard, so it will support Intel 12th and 13th gen, and importantly, the upcoming Raptor Lake refresh, which may be called 14th gen. We don't know yet. That's expected this fall. It has some really neat features that I kind of have to show you other pictures of for you to really see. So one, it's got this full color screen that's over the ports. It's got it comes with this giant heatsink slash fan that goes over the PCIe 5 SSD slot, and then there's a cover for all the PCI slots, and all of these covers are removed just by flicking a dial. There's no tools needed, and underneath it there's 3 more SSD slots, although those are only Gen 4 slots. And then there's a cable cover on the top to sort of, I guess, cover up some of the cables. And that also is tool-free removed. So you've got like lots of things to cover up like ugly areas. You've got built-in heat sinks for your SSDs, and you've got a screen, and it has Wi-Fi 7 built in. So everything that you'd want from a motherboard, unless you want one that with back-facing stuff, which I guess this doesn't have because that's a new thing. That you need a case to support it. Speaking of cases, this is one that's been teased for quite a while, and they say it's really coming out this year. The Shricom SG10 fanless case. This case has no fan, has no fans, and the case itself is meant to be the heatsink. So you put some special thermal conducting stuff on your graphics card and on your CPU, and it can dissipate something like 650 watts worth of thermal out of the top of the case, which is itself a heatsink. Now, the power supply, maybe if you use, I don't think they've addressed that, but maybe if you use the Silent X power supply that we're talking about. Now, you couldn't do this with a 4090. It's too much power and heat. Probably, I think a 4070 would work. And a 13900K perhaps. Oh, they said the build used on display was 13900K and RTX 4080. So pretty close to top of the line. Not the top of the line, but close. Another really cute, this is a cute little case, Fractal Design Tiny Terra. It's kind of wood grain. It's got one little fan, but you could still put, a discrete graphics card in here and a modern CPU. So that's kind of cool. Those were our best of Computex, but we have a lot more if you go to the Tom's Hardware homepage and click Computex, which is on the top bar. Real quick, I'll also show you have an article of the best case mods we saw, which is my favorite part of Computex, because they always have all these beautiful case mods around. Several different companies have competitions where they show the contestants. Here's one that looked like a cyberpunk motorcycle. Wow. Here's one that looked like an alien face hugger. Actually, alien egg with a face hugger on top.
Sure.
Here's one that looked like, I like this one, looks like a tower, like kind of a building. There's this one here is supposed to look like the moon, or it's called the moon case. I don't know if I quite get it. This one here looks like a medieval church.
Yeah.
I find that kind of neat. You know, like the top looks like a stained glass window.
Yeah, I love the top.
Tower of Light case. That's okay. Cybernetic cylinder. This pyramid case, there's more to it than meets the eye, because this case, the case itself isn't the special thing. Isn't the special thing about the mod. It's that it has a pump of liquid nitrogen pumping into it automatically over this white hose. And you can see on the side there's two LN2 tanks. And maybe that's why you see condensation on it. And because it is liquid nitrogen cooled, the CPU, which is a 13900K, is running at 7 gigahertz, and the RAM is running at 10,000 megahertz.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was, I found. See here, you can see a view of the back.
Yeah.
You can see it going. Now, normally, folks, if you're not familiar with extreme overclocking, when extreme overclockers will use liquid nitrogen to get the highest temperatures. The lowest temperatures, they'll go below zero. But they have to put a special little tower on the CPU, and they have to sit there with a container full of liquid nitrogen, and every minute or two pour liquid nitrogen on top of the CPU to keep it cool. They have to sit there by hand, doing it by hand. Whereas here, they're doing it automatically, which I guess means, I don't know how long your liquid nitrogen will last, how those tanks will last, but I guess it means you could sit there and use the computer to play a game or whatever, and not have to sit there pouring liquid nitrogen on it while you work. So
a big enhancement for usability.
Yes. Generally speaking, you wouldn't use, all this liquid nitrogen stuff is just for sort of competitive purposes to see who can get the highest, highest clock speed, because you wouldn't use it to be sitting there browsing the web and doing your everyday computing.
Not with that attitude.
Sorry. I'd like to. Don't get me wrong, but I think there also is a limitation normally of that, like, not only would you have to sit there with one hand pouring liquid, or have a servant, I guess, like an assistant, to sit there and help you pour it while you're typing, but inhaling liquid nitrogen is not good for you, so you kind of have to make sure you kept your distance there as well. Again, you don't want to be sitting, although overclockers sit there and accidentally inhale it probably. So
true. Long HDMI cable and a wireless keyboard and mouse. We're fine.
There you go. So there's the answer. Yes, you could do it. Yes, you could do it. I don't know, like, how long a tank like that lasts.
Yeah.
Is it a long time? I guess I'd have to ask my friend Splave, who is a world champion overclocker, who I would have seen if I went there, because he went to compete. That's not his design. He sits there and just does, manually pours them. But.
Well, definitely a lot of interesting stuff this year, for sure. The case mods I always find interesting. It doesn't matter, where we are or what we're doing. Case mods are always interesting. I've been involved in a couple. Nothing like that. Those were like Hollywood style props,
They're, and I bet we didn't even get pictures of all of them.
Yeah.
The other thing that's fantastic about Computex, and you see this a little bit at CES, but much more Computex, is they will fly in the builders, the people who built those cases, and you can talk to them. So
that's cool.
They'll be standing around talking about their work and what they made and how they made it, and I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I love to sit there. I love to meet those guys and those folks and talk to them about their cases.
Yeah.
Thermaltake is like the companies that tended to sponsor this are Thermaltake, Cooler Master, and G-Skill. But Thermaltake always has the biggest display, because they have twice a year mod contests, and so they bring the winner cases and the winner people to Computex, and that is always the highlight of my visit.
Yeah. I remember when we used to sell thermal take at Radio Shack, and we'd always get the press releases internally about the contests and all that stuff. It was fun. I used the old demo case for years as a personal case after we stopped selling it. Oh my goodness. Oh, thermal take. I've got thermal take Arctic Silver here in the cabinet.
Yep.
Anyway, obviously you've got a lot of stuff, a lot of content about this.
We have dozens of articles, and I wrote a lot of them, so please go visit our website, tomshardware.com. In the top trending bar, you'll see a link that says Computex. Click that, and you can see all of our Computex coverage, including some stuff about NVIDIA's AI announcements, which were kind of exciting in a good way. I could have very easily talked about their AI NPCs in games.
Yeah,
and that would have been an interesting topic.
That was cool.
There was a lot of great stuff at Computex this year. It was definitely more of a PC hardware show than a laptop show. There weren't that many laptops there. Never any phones or tablets or anything like that. But it was, it was a really great fun show, and I hope to get to go next year, as I had previously done for 10 years. It is a great show, and if you ever get the chance to go, you should.
It is definitely on my short list of shows to go to. You have talked so highly of it the entire time I've known you.
Yeah, it makes CES. They should make the people who run CES go to Computex and say, this is how you run a good show, because like everything's easy to find, it's easy to get around, places to get food. I mean, part of it is just the location in Taiwan is a lot less hectic than Vegas, but
sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's on my short list. I definitely want to check it out. And I appreciate all this information. I was following along as best I could. There were a couple of links that, while you were talking, I pulled up that I had missed. And I had completely missed the case mods. So I was glad to see that. Yeah. And as always, Avram, I look forward to what we talk about next time. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Piltch Point with Avram Pilch. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, and of course hit the notification bell, since subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. And if you've got topics you'd like us to discuss in the future, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you don't want to follow us on YouTube, that's okay. There's a lot of other ways that you can follow our content. You can find all of that by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.